Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. My name is Kira. I am your host, and we have the beautiful Yvette here as our co-host. Um, yeah, I've been introing and starting our conversations with music. One, to kind of start a conversation. Two, because some of you provided feedback that even though you're in the waiting room ahead of time, sometimes it takes you time to get in here. So what a better way to share my favorite music and meaningful music with you and I don't know, drop 111 in the chat if sharing music is a love language of yours, because for me, it's a big love language of mine. So I'm gonna drop the link for that song. That was Alicia Keys. If you don't know Alicia Keys, phenomenal artist. I read her autobiography. Um, the way she creates her music is so true to her, and I think it's an ode to authenticity, just bringing Alicia Keys into the conversation. But I also think that in that song is called If I Ain't Got You. And it's talking about how, like, yeah, some people want the roses, some people want the diamonds, some people want all the flashy things, but she's like, none of that matters if I don't have you, right? And today's conversation with Yvette is about the art of human connection. Last month, we focused on self love. 92% of you saw an increase in self love last month, which is congratulations and so amazing. This month, we're working on our interpersonal relationships. And I think at the core of why all of this matters is because, yeah, if I don't have you, then what do I have, right? Then why does this all matter? I can buy myself roses, I can buy myself diamonds, but I can never get the love from you without you, right? So that's what inspired that. I was also listening to Alicia this morning and I was like, oh my God, girl, you got my heart. Um, so with that, I have a few announcements and then we're gonna dive right into today's conversation. First and foremost, yeah, that's how you say it. Um, I have some stories for you. Doing these series always requires that I do the work, right? And I forget that when I'm putting these series together. I'm like, oh, this is what everyone else needs. This is what people are struggling with. This is what I get in the comments and the surveys at the end of the series where everyone's like, this is what I want to see. And I'm like, okay, cool, we can do that. But I forget that I become an active participant of the work itself. So I actually had two relationships last week um fall into messiness and require conversations and require a lot more from me in regards to resolution, showing up, communicating clearly, taking accountability for myself. And these are the conversations that we're having, right? So of course I'm being asked to do this work, but I'm curious, drop 222 in the chat if last week was really emotional for you and or if you're kind of navigating shifts within your relationships right now. I am. Last week was crazy. My best friend and I got into a thing where I'm balancing the questions and I'm a ponder. I don't have a full answer to things as soon as things happen, but I've been pondering and it's a question of, do I need to be kinder in our relationship? Is there a struggle because I've been a people pleaser for most of my life and this person has been in my life for my whole life and now I'm less of that? What's the struggle? Like all of these things, right? And it's a lot. I think it's a lot to get into relationships with anyone, whether it's a friend, a lover, a family member. I think it's a lot to open our hearts up to people. I think it's a lot to take accountability for ourselves. I think it's a lot to choose to do this work. I think it's a lot to love people. And just because it's a lot doesn't mean it doesn't matter. But this is a time of a lot of work. And a lot of you, there are a lot of twos in the chat. There are so many of you. Like a third of us are like, yeah, I'm going through it too, Kira. I feel you. You're not alone. Yeah, there's a lot. So I could continue to go on and on, but I did just want to say that I'm doing the work alongside you all. You are not alone on the journey. And I think Yvette could say the same thing. Also, this is just like a little side note. Um, Yvette and I are both Puerto Rican. Yay. So much fun. We didn't know that until like way after building our relationship. But I'm actually heading to Puerto Rico this weekend to see the Bad Bunny residency. And my goal is to raise awareness of our indigenous roots. So my whole outfit It's a really cool outfit, but my whole outfit is indigenous inspired. So I have like the feathers and the colors and the body art like the indigenous people, and it's just going to be so cool. So I wanted to share that for any of you who enjoy living life and want to know what the rest of us are doing with our lives. That's what I'll be doing with my life. And with that being said, we do not have Motivational Monday next week because it is Labor Day and I'll be flying back from Puerto Rico. So, I will see you the following week after that. Now, without further ado, where's the fit pic, Kira? I know. You want to see a picture of the fit? I'll show you. And then we'll move on with the day. Are you ready? You gotta tell me that you're ready. So this is my outfit. I made that feather collar there. This is a whole beaded top. And then I have like a very traditional, but also super wild out there flamenco skirt. I've got gold gladiator shoes. And then I'll also have feathers on my wrists as well. And then body art as well. I am a Taino indigenous songkeeper, so I do have the songs kept from our ancestors from hundreds of years ago. So I hand painted maracas, and I'll have those with me singing my songs. Um, and that's the
I
whole
love
fit.
it.
That's the whole flair. Thank you. I'm trying to be extra so that people ask me questions of like, who the heck are you and what the heck are you doing? And I'm going to be like, did you know that you probably have Taino blood and blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. Do you want to hear a song? And then move on with our lives. So that's the whole vibe. Um, you all are so sweet in the chat. I wish I had time to read them all, but I'll read them all later. Just know that I adore you. And without further ado, now that we've gone through all of the things, we have our very own beautiful Yvette here. And as an integrative brain coach, she's passionate about helping professional women from diverse cultures heal from the effects of traumatic or deeply challenging romantic relationships or family dynamics. If you've lost yourself while holding everything together, you are not alone, and it's not the end of your story. Through psychology and a neuroscience-based approach, she helps you reconnect with the powerful woman within to rebuild your confidence and lead your life from a place of purpose, not pain. Something else that's really cool about her is she's had the honor of collaborating on a patented relationship theory, perfect for today's conversation, that decodes and enriches human connection. This approach helps couples overcome challenges that erode connection and reignite their relationships while empowering singles to break free from repetitive patterns and build foundations for meaningful future relationships. So we have the very beautiful Yvette here. I'm dropping her link in the chat for those of you who have been here and know a little bit about what Life Guides is. You know that we've got one-on-one sessions with our guides where you can book one-on-one and go on your own individual journey with them. But also beyond that, I bring them onto these sessions so you can build a relationship with them. So I just dropped Yvette's link in the chat. If you're inspired by her, if you want to dive deeper, she's a perfect one for you to do so with. And before we get into the conversation, Yvette, I know that we're talking about the art of human connection. Can you give us like kind of like the umbrella of what human connection means and why it's an art?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that introduction, by the way. So, the art of human connection is just basically the ability to connect with someone on the highest level based on your communication code.
Okay. And we're going to be talking about communication code. So, exactly with that, I want us to dive into, yeah, what is the communication code? What does that mean exactly? And then how do we start to see our own codes in how we communicate with others?
Absolutely. So, a person's communication code is based on high and low communication. And so it's what we refer to as X and Y communicators. So X's means high, Y's mean low. And believe it or not, there is a difference in the way these two communication types communicate and connect with each other.
Okay. So, we have X's, which are, you said the low communicators or the high communicators?
Hi.
Okay, X's are high communicators.
Mm-hmm.
Y's are low communicators. And when we're
Yes,
talking about high communicators versus low communicators, are we talking about, um, I want to distinguish, and maybe you're talking about both, but are we talking about the desire to communicate or the ability? Actually, three. Are we talking about the desire to communicate, the ability to communicate, or the actual communication that happens when we're talking about X versus Y? Or maybe it's all
I
three.
believe. Believe it or not, it's all three. And let me give you an example. So, according to science, high communicators actually have a daily word bank of 8,000 to 20,000 words that they use every day. So, communication is actually about quantity and it's energizing for them.
Hmm.
X's also prioritize family, social connection, and friendships. And their self worth and self esteem is actually tied into that. And so X's generally will ask, how was your day? That is a bid for connection because they have a high word bank. And I actually want you to look at it this way. If I'm a high X and I have 20,000 words that I have to use for per day, then look at it as an empty cup. And as I talk, I'm filling up my glass with water, right? Which is synonymous to my word bank, how many words I'm using per day. So if I've used up 15,000 words and I have 5,000 words left over, who do you think I'm going to use those 5,000 words on when I get home? My
Mm.
partner, right? But if my partner is a low communicator, then there's going to be a disconnect because if my low communicator is has used up all their words that day, they're not going to be able to connect with me as a high X. Does that make sense?
That makes so much sense. And for those of you who are here live on the session, drop in the chat where you think you are. Do you think you're an X, a high communicator? Do you think you're a Y, a low communicator? And if you want to write for your loved one as well, you can put for them and write my loved one or whatever you think they are. And I think this is so beautiful. This is why I love the simplicity of science when we start getting into the real ways that communication works and that relationships work because we start to realize I feel like a lot of the times we personalize things. Like, "Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
100% an X, no questions asked." Like I get filled up by people and I love this analogy of like the amount of words that we have because I'm realizing on the days where I have got less of that connection, I do struggle more internally. And the less words I say, the more internal struggle I have. But
Mm.
as an X, I think it's really important for me to realize the whys in my life and not take it personally, but just to be like, okay, I can't necessarily get my cup filled from these people. And this is why it's so important to be well resourced in your life and why we're talking about more
Yeah.
than just romantic relationships, because you can get that fulfilled from other people. A lot of you are saying most of the days you're an ex. I love this. Okay, cool. So now that we're having an understanding of these two layers of communication when it comes to the connection code, and also just for those of you who are here, there's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can leave any questions in the Q&A box and we will answer them and we'll make sure that you have a deep understanding of what we're talking about so that we can give you the wisdom so that after this you can take it out into the world and finally make sense of it all, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm curious, what are the psychological effects? I think I have two layers. What are the
Mhm.
psychological effects, I think, as a whole of being an X versus being a Y? But then what are the psychological effects of having a disconnect in that now we're gaining awareness of it, but before
Mhm.
3 minutes ago, we did not have an awareness of that. So what are the psychological effects of having that clashing of styles when you're not aware of it?
Absolutely. And before I get into that, I just realized I did not share with you the low communicators and what their word bank is. And so low
Mm,
communicators, they have a daily word bank of 2,000 to 8,000 words. So communication is depleting for them at the end of the day. Function is the order of the day. They prioritize on activities, self-interest, and work. And their self-esteem is tied into that, right? And so generally your low communicators or white types, they're not going to ask you um, how your day was generally. So I can give you a perfect example. My son is a white type. If I ever ask him how his day was, he'll say, Mom, it's the same as any other day. Why are you asking?
mm,
And so you have to look at white type communicators as they start off with a full glass of words. And as they're talking, guess what? Their glass is being emptied. And so at the end of the day, if they have a high communicating job, they don't have the reserve to engage in communication when they get home. They are so exhausted that they literally need to go and take a nap. And
I,
this is a point of contention for some couples when they're in an XY relationship.
I was just about to say that. There's a couple of things. First thing, I think the first thing is I see all the notes on the back end. So I get to put the pieces together for those of you who are listening. The low end of a high communicator is 8,000 words. The
Mm-hmm.
high end of a low communicator is 8,000 words. So for you, if you're a high communicator, what is your bare minimum as a high communicator is someone's maxed effort as a low communicator. And I think that's huge because I think when we finally accept people for as we are, we get into better relations with them and we stop trying to make them like us and we
Yeah.
start to honor their differences, or maybe we start to honor the places where it doesn't really work anymore. And that's fine too. But I know I asked you different questions. We're not going to go into those ones yet. How how do we balance this? I think, and I would love to hear it from both perspectives. As a why that feels like they're not getting enough, or as a high communicator that feels like they're not getting enough communication from their low
Mhm.
communicator, how do they handle that? But then the low communicator that's getting way too much communication from their high communicator, how do they handle that?
It's really a challenge, to be honest with you. And this is where there's a give and take, right? There's always a give and take in a relationship. And so for high communicators, I always tell my high communicators, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Diversify. Make sure that you hang out with your friends, your family members, to get all of your communication needs met, right? Because if your communication needs are not met, then it affects the neurochemicals in your brain. Same thing
Mm.
for low communicators. You're going to have to, there's a give and take. If your partner asks you how your day was and that's bonding for them, then you have to give in, right? You may not be able to do it every day, but do it a couple days a week, to be able to support your high communicators' needs.
Low communicators, do they have a desire to communicate? I ask this because it makes me think about like anxious attachment versus avoidant attachment.
Mm-hmm.
Those who will lean more to communication and resolving things versus those who will be like, I'm gonna go resolve it on my own. I don't want you. I need a little bit of time. So when I think about avoidance, and maybe they do have a desire to communicate, but they don't understand how to. But is there a difference in the desire to communicate between these two
Yes,
as well?
yes. So remember, low communicators or your Y types, it's about self interest and activities. You want to get them to talk about their self interest and activities, and they'll talk your ear off. Perfect example is my son. He loves tennis and soccer. And we actually tested this out with his professor because she said, you know what, your son hardly ever talks. And I said, ask him about tennis. And as he was walking down the stairs and he came to when he approached us, she asked him about tennis. And this was him. And we both just started laughing because she got it.
Okay.
I know.
This is a lot. I mean, this is so eye-opening in so many ways. Drop 333 in the chat for those of you who are listening. If you're just having epiphanies or if you're like, "Oh my God, I see things so much differently. Wow, I'm so excited to try this. Ooh, what do I do with this? Wow, I never thought of it that way." Um, so with that, yeah, going back into the psychological effects of all of this, I know that you talked about when if we're a high communicator and we don't have those high communication needs met, there is an internal level of stress that's happening. So I want to know, and probably the same with a
Absolutely.
low communicator if they're getting asked to communicate too much, same internal stress. So what are those
Yes.
psychological effects? And again, reminder, Q&A starts in just a moment. So if you have questions, please drop them in the chat or we'll just go along with our own questions.
If you are connected, so the closer you are on the scale, right, to your partner with regard to X and Y, the more bonded and connected you are on a neurochemical level. And this happens with family members, with your children, with romantic partners, and at work. And so your dopamine levels are going to be up. So you're going to have excitement and motivation. your serotonin levels go up. So you're going to have emotional security and you're going to feel confident in the relationship. And then your oxytocin levels go up. So that is where you feel a lot of trust and bonded, a really deep bonding with your partner. On the other hand, if you're not connecting with your partner because you're really at the opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Then your oxytocin levels are going to be down. So that's going to weaken the bond and you're going to have trust issues. And the problem with oxytocin is that your brain doesn't signal you to say, hey, honey, I'm low on oxytocin. I need a hug or I need some communication. What it does is it manifests itself through arguments. So you all will literally argue about the most ridiculous things. And that's how you know it's
Hmm.
it's the conflict because you'll argue about insignificant matters. So that's
And
a
that's
key. Hmm.
that's so you're arguing with this other person when your communication styles don't match.
It Yes, because your oxytocin levels are low. Your
Hmm.
neurochemical oxytocin is low. It's that bonding hormone.
I was just about to ask, can you tell us, for those who maybe don't understand what oxytocin is, can you give us a little bit more of like an elementary explanation of how oxytocin is developed in the body and why it's important?
Yeah, so oxytocin is a neurochemical. It's a bonding hormone, and it is excreted in the bloodstream. And so when you are connected with someone, your oxytocin levels go up. It's the same thing with mom and child, right? It's a bonding experience. So oxytocin levels flow, mom and child bond. Same thing with partners and even friendships. So the more you're connected, the more oxytocin flow you're going to have, which is going to facilitate trust, happiness, and then even this is the power of oxytocin is that it even prevents you from looking outside of the relationship because you're so happy.
So it really is a deep sense of internal satisfaction within
Absolutely.
whatever your relationship is.
Yes.
So Tiffany said this in the chat. She goes, "So it's not me, it's my oxytocin." And that's
Yes.
exactly why we have these conversations so that you can
Mhm.
realize, yeah, it's not you. Your body, like you have needs that you didn't even know that you needed yet until we had
Yes.
this conversation. So, yeah, your needs are not being met. And maybe you're asking for too much from someone who can't give that to you. So I have a question, Yvette. Um, and we have one question in the Q&A, but it's more about a recording, so I'll answer that at the end. However, if you have questions, drop them in the Q&A. Can your communication code change?
It generally does not, but you can tweak it, right? You can adjust. You can make adjustments to be able to support your partner. And the best way to do this, so again, going back to X and Y, if you have a partner that's a low communicator but has a high communicating job, and you're excited, right, for them to get home and finish, asking about their day, if you allow them that little bit of nap time, when they've reset and they've re-energized from that nap time, trust me when I tell you, you will have them for the rest of the evening, and then you can ask them how their day was. And so that way your communication needs get met.
And then what can a low communicator do? Or is there anything that low communicators can do to make their high communicators feel good and supported? And would it be as simple as like, "Hey babe, I had a long day at work. I just need 30 minutes to myself and I'll be right back to you."
Absolutely. And this is what we recommend is you give your high communicator a hug and a kiss and you rub their back. And the reason why you do that is because that releases a little bit of oxytocin and gives them that satisfaction and that bandwidth to wait for you to wake up from that nap. Isn't that wild?
It is. Oh, and I can say that that works for me. Hug me, don't say anything. I'm good. Hug me, love me, show me that I matter.
Yeah.
Go do your thing. I can be independent too. I don't need you all the time, but you better show that you love me and that I matter. And then go do your thing. Whatever. Go do your thing. But we have a question in the chat, and this is
Yeah.
this is a I don't think this is one that we could really answer without having so many more details, but I think asking the question in and of itself is a significant cue to maybe some changes that need to happen. But this person, in all caps, mind you, they
Mhm.
say, how do you know when to give up or realize it's time to search for what could be for you?
When the conflict doesn't stop, when you're just so frustrated in the relationship, there's frustration, constant conflict, and you feel such a disconnection from your partner that there's a void.
Mm.
Yeah, it's time to walk away. Yeah,
I love that. Thank you for that because I feel like so many people hold on for way too long.
yeah,
And I operate in the mentality, I'm like the world's greatest optimist. It's either this or better. So,
yeah,
it's either this level of unhealthy communication that I got to live with the rest of my life, or I'll find better. You're not going to
yeah.
backslide. You're learning and realizing what you do need. You can communicate that healthier. You're on Motivational Monday. You can get a personal guide to help you learn how to manage communication, how to manage relationships.
Hmm.
But you get what you have right now and you stick with it, or you get better. Those are your only two options, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, here's the thing with oxytocin too. If you're in a relationship that you're unsatisfied in, it's not easy to walk away because oxytocin is meant to bond you for life. So it acts like crazy glue. It's not easy to walk away. So it's going to be one fight after another until you finally, until it's that one last fight that allows you to break away.
So it's not you. It's
It's
the
not
chemicals
you.
in your brain, it's your
Yep.
communication styles, it's your trauma, but it's not you.
It's a combination,
Okay, so
unfortunately.
I know it's everything. So I think this is a perfect place to start winding down. So do you have any final words of encouragement for everyone who's on this session and just had their minds
Absolutely.
wildly blown by everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want you to know that whether you're X or Y, understand that it's not your fault that this is your communication code. Um, it really has somewhat to do with your genetic makeup. And you really want to embrace who you are. If you're a high communicator, embrace that. If you're a low communicator, embrace that. But I'm happy to give you tools to help you to understand that more. So feel free to connect with me.
So beautiful. I'm going to drop Yvette's link in the chat for all of you. We have one other question that just popped up in the chat. Yvette, if you can give us a super short, super sweet answer. How do you do that with your family and not just a partner?
You really have to start seeing people through XY lenses and setting those boundaries, right? If you're a low communicator, setting those boundaries, healthy boundaries, of course. And same thing with X types. Again, it's about what you're able to um, handle, right? What level of communication are you able to handle? And it's okay to tell people, hey, you know what? I'm exhausted, right? I need a little time. It's okay to do that.
Exactly. I think communication is key and curiosity is key. If you want to start
Hmm.
watching your relationships change, you might need to change a little bit and communicate more and be like, oh my God, I just found this out about myself. And what do you
Hmm.
think about yourself? And open it up for discussion. So Yvette has a free masterclass that she's doing this Thursday. I just dropped the link in the chat for you to join.
Thank you.
Is it specifically on the communication code, Yvette?
It is.
Oh
I'm going to
my
expand on it a whole lot
gosh.
more.
Okay. A communication code deep dive. Watch the masterclass. You have her link in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here. I This is such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like it's going to change so much about the way I relate with everyone in
Mhm.
my life, and I appreciate your wisdom, Yvette, and thank you for bringing this to the table for us. Um,
You're welcome.
and yeah, to all of my whys, I feel you. To all of my exes, I struggle with you, but I'm doing my best. Or no, to all of my exes, I feel you. All my high communicators, I feel you. All of my whys, you make me struggle a little bit, but I love you anyway. Um, And without further ado, that is the end of today's session. So thank you so much for joining Motivational Monday. It is always a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. We do not have a session next week. So if you try to show up, no one's going to be there. Outside of that, you have the free masterclass link. You have Yvette's unique link. You have me the following Monday. And there was one other thing I wanted to say. Oh, invite your team members in your organizations to this if you're having a great time. Yes, the recording will be emailed to you on Thursday. You can send that off to anyone. It's public on YouTube. And there's a survey that pops up at the end of this. So please fill it out. If you leave any love letters for Yvette, I'll be sure to text them directly to her. And I hope you all have the most beautiful week ever. We will talk to you soon. Actually, beautiful 2 weeks. And happy Labor Day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Mwah.